Welcome once again to another episode of Colonize the Ocean, the podcast. It is I, Brendan Traxler, your host. It is February 23rd, 2026. And before I get into today's topic, which we're going to be talking about OTEC, ocean thermal, so our podcast has been available on Spotify, Apple, stuff along those lines for quite some time in an audio format and video where it's available. Spotify's done that. We've also been on YouTube for a while. It doesn't appear that the Colonize the Ocean YouTube gets that many views. So if you're watching this, this is the first video podcast on the ASC channel. And I'm going to try something different there. So if you're listening, if you want to watch the video format and you're listening on one of those streams that don't have video yet, you can check us out at Atlantis Sea Colony and on YouTube and watch it there. Now, often I don't have a lot of graphics or anything like that goes with it, but some people just enjoy a video format and seeing me talk about what we're talking about. And if it starts getting more likes and more views and stuff along those lines, maybe I'll add some more graphics and make it a little bit more visually appealing than just me sitting here talking. So getting that out of the way, let's move forward in today's topic, which is OTEC. We're going to talk about scaled OTEC and how that all applies to underwater habitats and just seasteading and just ocean energy altogether. And so what is OTEC? I think a lot of people understand what OTEC is. And it's basically the ocean's type of like geothermal energy. And that, you use the colder water from down below and the warmer water from up above, and you have a cycle. And what that does is because of the temperature differences, it runs a turbine. And that turbine therefore generates electricity. And so the nice thing about OTEC is that it, again, kind of like hydro, it's never ending. It's constant. That's why geothermal is popular as well. And even though people brag on solar about it being a truly renewable resource, you're still limited to, what max maybe 12 hours a day on, if you're lucky, 6 to 8. Whereas this type of stuff, it runs nonstop. It is renewable. It's never ending. You don't have to have a battery bank because it's just going to run. So that's a pro to it. Now there are cons, and we'll get into those here in a second. But right now it's still a large structure to generate a little bit of energy in comparison. And so that's really kind of the downside. But how does it benefit underwater habitats currently and in the future? And the one nice thing about it is that, as I just said, it is a clean, renewable resource where if we can scale these down, we can get these OTEC generators to be small enough, you could put one in a habitat and it could just be an energy producing habitat. And of course, you could bundle it with battery banks and stuff like that for a failover. But you don't need to. But still, you always want redundancies. But I envision that as far as the future being, you have all these different habitats that are just generating electricity. And it may not be for other underwater habitats. It may be for, seasteading above. And maybe if you're close enough to land, generating power for islands or for land as more and more people are moving closer and closer to the ocean. So I think there is a definite need that, as good as solar is, I still question a lot of it. But like anything, the technology is going to get better, and we've seen that with solar. So maybe not. But for underwater, I definitely see it being a benefit. And the reason it's scalable is because you can. Right now, you can add more onto it and make it a bigger process, or from the standpoint of getting it smaller and smaller. The technology allows that. It's just as it is in the scheme of things, a newer technology that has not been perfected out yet. One of the other benefits to underwater habitats that I think, people miss with a lot of these energy things is because it is a renewable thing where it's pulling water and it's like that. It's generating two things. One, on the surface, it's bringing all this nutrient water back up from below. And so it's creating this area where you're going to have a lot of new life spawning from that. And so that can be good for multiple different things. Maybe it's good for just producing food for you to eat. It's also pulling in a whole ecosystem there itself. There are seasteading groups out there that are already creating revenue based on fish farms and stuff along those lines. So it could be a revenue stream. Also, in the habitat itself, because you're pulling this cold water, you can siphon that cold water off, or that cold water is going to cool down. It can cool down the habitat. And anybody knows that humidity is a huge issue when it comes to underwater habitats, because especially if you have moon pool in the thing, you've got this open port to the ocean, which is pure water, and you're trying to keep it cool, and it's a high humidity thing. So anything you can do to produce coolness, air conditioning, which is a huge energy sucker, is great. So OTEC solves multiple different issues here: food, energy, air conditioning, and there's just three of the ones right then. So that's really why I think OTEC is something that we can't sleep on, and that as much as solar and hydro, we talked about that. I really think that OTEC could be the one thing that really sets underwater habitats apart from everybody else, and that we can be a energy producing entity all in itself, by having underwater energy production. That being said, as always, in 2026, we've been having a Patreon poll that goes along with what I'm talking about on these podcasts. So again, if you're watching this for the first time, go check us out over our Patreon. 100% free to take the polls. It's patreon.com/Atlantis Sea Colony. Go over there. There are paid tiers. If you like what you're hearing, if you like what you're seeing here, you want to be involved, I encourage you. It's cheap. We try to keep it fairly low cost to, just draw in more support and more people to help us see this vision and get it done. Otherwise, you can always check us out at AtlantisSeaColony.com. All of our social media links are there: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, everything on there, email. Go check us out at either one of those places. Get to know us better. Follow our journey as we're trying to build manned underwater habitats. And take our poll. And I will see you again next week. Have a good one.